Hey good people, Batavia here. I want to share what the garden looks like in the first week of November. I'll see you all in a few. Okay, Doug, so before we dig in, a couple of housekeeping items. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to my channel. I still have garden joy to share each and every week. And this is the first week of November. We're going to do this walkthrough of what the garden looks like now. If you haven't already seen it, there's another video on my channel from just a month ago, and I shared what the garden looked like in October. So it's pretty cool to be able to see kind of what 30 days can do to a garden here in Chicago. So front yard, this is the front yard flower bed. I had intended to get out here and cut back and prep this area before the cold hit, but I didn't make it. Last week we had one day of full-on rain. Then that night I think the temperatures got down to like 26 or 27 degrees, and then that next morning and throughout that day it snowed the full day. So everything was super wet. You can see a lot that has basically died. The goal for me here in this bed is to pull out all of the annuals. So you can almost see the difference in the things that are more hardy. Like this is an annual, this isn't hardy. The cold clearly has killed this. I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to plant some tulip bulbs. And this is the first time I'll be planting tulips. I'll share that with y'all. So I'm excited about that. But you can see the difference between something that isn't hardy, that has basically died with the cold weather, compared to something that is a bit more hardy. So these are perennials. And you can see there's still green leaves here. I'm going to cut these back though, just to make room for them to grow again next season. And that's going to be the approach with everything in the garden that's perennial. So that is the front yard flower bed. Oh, real quick, I pulled up these sunflowers. I was just chatting with a neighbor about them in between video clips here. And I put some cardboard here just because it left a really big hole, and I knew that there was going to be a lot of water with the rain and the snow, and I just didn't want to create kind of a mud puddle. So if I have enough bulbs, I'm going to put some in there as well. For the tulips. But that is the front yard flower bed.
Where those vegetables at?
Listen! Alrighty, so beds 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're pretty bare. I left a couple of things in. I pulled everything out. Luckily I got out here before the weather took a turn. So kind of just cleaning this area up was a little bit easier. But I left carrots in. I'm still excited about these. I sowed these from seed directly into the garden, and this is the second year I've tried to grow carrots from seed. Last year I didn't get any carrots, and I'm hoping for better success this year. I put down a lot more seeds, but only a couple have grown, and that's just fine. Like if I get, what's that? Looks like 4 carrots here. I'll be in carrot heaven. So we'll see. Ford Hook. I always get this name wrong. Ford Hook or Giant Shard. Anywho, I left this in here because I wanted to see if it was going to survive the cold. And some of these leaves have clearly died. But I don't remember if they were dead before the cold weather hit. But these look good and healthy. So I'm not ready to call this variety of kale hardy yet, but I'm really pleased that it's still kind of spry and present in the bed. So one quick question when it comes to kale plants. I put these in the ground as starter plants back in the summer, and they didn't fare that well. I completely shaded them out with some other plants, some big zucchini leaves. But anyway, I am interested in your opinions. I plan on, or I want to move these plants to the backyard garden area where I will ultimately be covering those beds with plastic. So the question is, a plant of this size, and then considering the temps that we're getting, our nights are going to start to consistently be in the 20 to 30 degree temp. The question is, will they survive the transplant? Do you think they'll survive being moved? I don't plan on covering the front yard beds, so I know that there's a chance that it will come back next year, but I'm hoping to be able to get some small growth on it this year. I know everything grows a little bit slower with the colder temps. Anywho, let me know what y'all think. That is bed number 1. Alright, so next up is bed number 2. It's pretty bare as well. I left just this ruby red shard in here, and I wanted to see what would happen once the cold hits. Some of these leaves are clearly dead, but other leaves are looking pretty good. So I'm curious. I'm going to harvest some of these and see if the taste is different from what I remember from when the summer was here. Maybe these get sweeter as well, similar to some of the other, chard, or some of the other kale and collards and things. So beds 3 and 4, everything has been pulled out. I plan on adding some compost to these beds and the other beds as well, and I want to cover all of these beds with leaves. I did that last year. It's the first time that I really put in work to prep the garden area was last year, and I just really enjoyed the time it saved me going into the next season. I was able to just get out and move the leaves and then start planting. I didn't have to worry about kind of early weeds growing. So that's going to be my strategy for this year. I just have here just some of the trellising systems that I used for the cucumber vines, and I don't know, I'm probably not going to plant those same things here next year. We'll see. I'm still planning that out, which I'll be sharing with y'all. But for now, it's just kind of to keep the squirrels from digging in there. So that is bed number 3 and 4. Okie doke. So the backyard garden area, there's still plenty of food back here, which I'm super pleased with. Still in the first week of November. This is bed number 5, which was my leafy green bed for the season. I have mostly kale in here, the curly kale, which is super hardy. It has taken on the cold weather without issue. I have lacinato kale, dinosaur kale, really the only plant that survived over the course of the season. So that one's still looking good. Russian kale, which I plan on harvesting all these big leaves this week, and probably juicing or creating smoothies from those. And I'm curious, I may leave one of these plants in place to see how hardy this Russian kale is. But anyway, I think I have for curly kale, which is very intentional, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants it looks like in here, and I am excited about covering this bed and then coming out and getting kale as the weather gets super cold in these next couple of months. So come along with me as we see kind of what winter harvesting looks like in Chicago. So that is bed number 5. So bed number 6, the cage baby, the notorious cage baby. It is bare. I pulled all of the tomato plants out of this bed some weeks back now. I think it was before we had the scare of the first frost. For now, I've covered it with cardboard because I plan on doing a little bit of work in here, putting down some compost like in some of the other beds, and I plan on covering the bed with leaves. But I didn't want it to get super muddy and super wet because we've had a pretty wet week that just passed. So that's bed number 6. And all of its bareness. Moving on to bed number 7. This is where I had most of my peppers this past season. And I recently built hoops, actually 3 sets of hoops. There's a video on my channel where I walk through how I built those using 3 different methods. But I built the hoops for this bed. Not that I have anything left in it for this season, but again, to get a head start on next season, I'll be able to put some plastic on it and plant some veggies. We're gonna move on. So bed number 8, I've talked quite a bit about this recently on my Instagram page, Be Better Garden, as well as my Facebook page. Check me out there if you haven't already. But this bed has been super impressive over the last week. It has taken on the frost, then freeze, rain, and snow like a trooper. I have harvested a bunch of collards from this bed this past week, and I'm going to be picking a few more for some friends that I'll be sharing with. But I put the hoop on top of this bed because I am going to end up covering it with plastic either this season, depending on if I have collards left, or preparing for next season. So that's bed number 8. Bed number 9, which has been the womp 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 moment of the garden season. Nothing grew here that I planted, other than I had some jalapeno plants here and then a couple of okra plants. But I'm secretly hoping the seeds that I sowed back in August and September over winter, and then they produce in the spring, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Anywho, this bed is going to be ready to plant new things next spring, so it's all good. It has been covered with really So bed number 10, I am super excited about this bed because this is my first attempt at prolonging the garden season, the growing season. So I have covered this bed with hoops and plastic, and I still have some garden goodies in here I want to share with you. So I'll just take a sec and uncover this bed. It's about 40 degrees now, and it's going to get up to 50. So these veggies right now don't need protection. I'll put it back on once we get closer to the evening. Alrighty, so I've pulled the cover off, and the rosemary still looks good. I'll have to look back to see the names of this lettuce, but it's still alive. It looks a little bit waterlogged. This is a different kind. So I'm probably going to harvest all of this because, again, I don't expect this to survive these continued cold temps. There's a different variety over there that looks a little bit better. And here is the radishes. So I had 3 different types of radishes that I sowed, and we are well beyond what the packaging said for harvesting, which is kind of expected, and that's fine. But I'm just pleased that they're still alive. I didn't sow, or I didn't thin these out yet, which I can still do. But the cover, I'm hoping, will help give the radishes some time to grow, as well as the spinach that's over there, and then the beets. So I sowed these back in the end of August, so we're just over 60 days. One more opportunity where the packaging says ready to harvest in 60 days, and that doesn't quite seem to be the case. So I picked this one yesterday because I get so anxious when it comes to root vegetables, and clearly that's not a sizable beet. Some of them may be a little bit bigger. Like I can definitely see that one down there is a little bigger. You can see the tops of it right there. But I'm going to give all of these some more time. The mint, which is, I learned a couple of years back, is perennial. Some of it looks like there's a little bit of water damage, but this is still looking good. Harvest some of this week as well. So expectations have been met for bed number 10 and the hoops and the plastic. So bed number 11, the strawberry bed. This is the first year that I've grown strawberries in my garden, and this is the first year in this bed. So I still need to mulch this bed. I've read quite a bit about the need to protect the roots going into the cold weather for next spring. So I've got that to do, and that wraps up bed number 11.
Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please do subscribe to my channel, like this video, and feel free to comment and share with others. I'll see you all in the next one.